Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another Diablo 4 video, and in this one we're going to talk about the recent Campfire podcast stream the official Diablo channel just had. I've picked out the things that stood out the most for me. I'm going to go through some notes I made and try to make this a short, concise TLDR kind of video. Obviously, we have to keep in mind that this was not a structured or planned kind of podcast. It was them communicating to the community. So, yes, of course, I would have loved to see some comments regarding some annoying bugs and issues with the Necromancer specifically, as that is the main class I'm working on. Anything from things not scaling to what the hell scales minions to the corpse targeting being amazing on a controller and complete dog shit with a PC controller, keyboard and mouse. So, I mean, taking those things aside, I'm going to, instead of talk about things that I wish they would have brought up, because again, it was not a structured kind of approach, it's them communicating, I'm going to talk about the things they actually did talk about. So I'm going to go through my notes, and I'm going to talk about them. So first thing to mention before moving on is that it seems like no one at the office actually plays Necromancer on a PC, because otherwise these things would have been probably hotfixed long time ago. But again, I'm not a programmer, so I don't know how hard that would be. Anyways, moving on. So in regards to dungeon nerfs, which they've done, as we know, especially from this YouTube channel, I've been working very hard together with my team, and especially my my OG god Tyken, who's been running every single dungeon in this entire game 3 to 5 times, sometimes more, to verify which dungeon is actually the best in terms of experience per hour. He's been doing this for the community and our team and been consistently testing, and there's even a document that was crowdsourced through Reddit, I believe, which I made a video about recently. However, it's not always accurate, because right now, I don't want to make another video on it, but I will say it in this one. Up in Skoskland, there's an area called this one here, Domain Tunnels. Seems to be really good based on this. I didn't feel like it worked out that well on a solo build. On a very fast solo, great. That would work nice. But on a build like Necromancer, for example, they're not excessively fast. The Exploding Shadow Mist build is really fast. That one would be really decent at it in Nightmare, but not normal. In a party, however, this one was really good. But I don't want to go through much in detail with that, but I just want to point it out for those of you looking for dungeons. But they said that they don't want to buff everything, because that is bad and can cause other issues. This is obviously something that is something a lot of people seem to be neglecting when they're providing feedback and criticism to games in general. People, they look at a problem and they'd be like, yo, just do this, that's gonna fix it. And then they don't do what devs have to do in game companies, and that is look at what is that change going to do 5 miles further down the road. And that's why things like this can take some time. We also have to keep in mind that the bigger the company, the slower fixes like this will take to fix or implement, because it has to fit the agenda and the idea that they want to do with their game. It has to go through a lot of approval, unless, of course, the fix has something to do that would be harmful or detrimental to the profitability of the game. That's why you see things like issues and glitches with the shop would be fixed immediately, whereas balance changes and whatnot could take some more time. This is something that we have to just accept, that is the state of the world we're living in. It has nothing to do with Blizzard. It's just the way every company does things. Either way, they said that they don't want to buff everything because of that. However, they have lowered the density and referred to the lowered density as a baseline, and now they can go up from there. I think that this is a reasonable take. However, I also feel like they should have been a little bit more careful with how they developed that decision, because lower mob density in an ARPG game results in less fun. I think we can all agree on that. If you don't agree with that statement, let me know in the comments below, and we'll see what the other people in the chat have to say, because I really don't think that anyone would say that lower density is fun in an ARPG. They have said that they want to buff Nightmare dungeons to be more effective than normal dungeons and be able to teleport to your Nightmare dungeons from your city. Now, these are great changes, because one of the big detrimental effects of XP per hour is the downtime of running to the Nightmare dungeons. I will say, though, that personally, I enjoyed, not because of the goddamn fucking, you know, barricades, which is the true endgame, but the fact that this is an open world approach and it's a big world. And honestly, it's not something I care about when I'm playing games in general. But I will say, though, that the world is pretty nicely done. It's cool. And being able to travel to those areas is a cool thing. But in terms of efficiency, not so much. Thank you so much, Jinx, for the gift of sub. So I mean, a little split on that personally, but I think this is good, because in the end, the current state of gaming that we live in has to do with metagaming, and this is caused by a lot of different factors. But many gamers, they are looking at this. Thanks again for another gift, Jinx. Many gamers are looking at pure efficiency, and that's what we're going for, and that's the world we live in. This is not something this is something that developers, in my opinion, needs to take into consideration when they're developing their games. People are sweaty no-life degens. Then again, we also have to keep in mind that this game is not catering to that type of player at all, which is okay. Anyways, so we can now portal to them, or we will be able to portal to them when that's implemented. They said that they want to use the calculation of the no downtime in the experience per hour adjustment to incentivize the Nightmare Dungeons over normal. So now the question is, how much bigger is the experience per hour going to be in Nightmare Dungeons? Because we still have to compare the randomness of experience, or how much time it takes for you to do a dungeon, how effective that is to run solo or party, compared to spamming one dungeon with no downtime, even if you have a portal, because some dungeons will be worse than others. We have already verified and confirmed this. Something else, to finalize my thoughts around the Nightmare Dungeons, I think it's good. I don't want to complain. I think it's a step in the right direction. We'll see where the numbers lands, and we'll take it from there. Obviously, providing criticism and feedback once we see and test it, that's great. Absolutely, we'll take it then. Moving on, they have said that the Season 1 is expected mid to late July. Now, I think this is... schedule-wise, I think this is reasonable, because we are expecting to see 3.22 Path of Exile League in 2 weeks into August. So having it mid to late July would make sense, preferably mid-July rather than late. I know for myself and many other Path of Exile streamers, we're going to be at ExileCon about a week before, or several days before the actual ExileCon event, which is at the end of July, which means that if they don't launch it mid-July and they do it late July, some of us are going to be forced to fly 20 to, in my case, 27 hours to ExileCon in New Zealand and stream Diablo 4 there. I'm not sure how I will personally handle that situation if that happens. I will obviously update you guys on Discord and Twitter about that. But I don't feel bad about it. Blizzard shouldn't, and they don't really care. They don't give 2 cents about the Path of Exile, ExileCon in that situation. There are 2 different types of sizes on the audience. Obviously, me being in my I'm very biased to being very upset about this. But I wanted to point it out for those of you who are watching this content. Many of you also watch my Path of Exile content, obviously, and I want to point it out for those of you going to ExileCon that might actually happen. So they tackled the Blighted Corpse Explosion. I am not on that character right now. Blighted Corpse Explosion is this thing, causing a lot of issues with visual clarity. They have said that this is going to be fixed in an upcoming patch. They have mentioned that, however, they disregarded and completely ignored mentioning the targeting issue that I brought up earlier, but they are looking into this. And they also talked about the sorting priority of visual clarity, so that they would make sure that things like the Fire Enchanted, ground effects that will straight up kill a lot of people, should be more visible or prioritized in terms of visual clarity in those situations. I don't know how that's done. I'm not a game developer. I don't program those things. My programming skills has to do with VMS stuff like PLC programming and CNC. That's way different than this. But it's good. When it's coming, I have no idea. But it's coming. So that's a step in the right direction. I like that approach personally. We've been waiting for it. Maybe it's taken too much time. But like I said before, it's a big company. It's coming. I don't want to give them trash for not implementing things 2 minutes after I've asked for it. So, over to the more gritty stuffs. Fog of War, I'm just going to read from my notes here, so I do apologize if I'm not staring at the camera, looking at your eyes when I'm speaking. I just want to point that out. So, Fog of War will be removed once you've discovered it. So, if you look at my map right now, you can see that I do have some areas here that I've not discovered. If I were to discover this area, I could then log to my alt character, or in my seasonal character when that launches, and that area will be revealed. I like this. And I like it a lot, mainly for the waypoints. And we'll get to the renown in a bit. But I like that the Fog of War has been discovered, because my account has seen that area. I've seen it. I don't need it to be undiscovered again. They've also said that the waypoints will now then be visible. I have all of the waypoints of this character, I believe, or most. They will not be collected or usable by your other characters or in the season, but they will be visible, allowing you to know where the hell to go when you're running like a hell tide. You might want to collect some waypoints. You can have a party of friends. Someone goes to that area, collects the waypoints, then they port to each other, whatever you want to do. So there's ways to do that. But you will see them and be able to pick them up. So that's a good step in the right direction, if you will. But there are some caveats to this, which we'll get to in a bit. This will transfer between seasons. So Renown looks like this. It takes about 2,000 renown per area to reach the 4 Paragon points. When you're switching characters in what they're calling the Eternal Realm, the renown for a new character would have all of the bottom rewards collected, and you can recollect renown again and only benefit extra from the top rewards, in this case being a little bit of extra experience and gold. But if you've collected these, you'll have them. Now, how will this then transfer into the new seasons? It takes about 2,000 renown per area. They are letting you keep the Fog of War area discovered, which means that now during the Eternal Realm, I'm going to have to run to every one of these areas. I probably will do this off stream, not going to lie. Or when I'm talking, I guess. Can do it right now. You need to explore the entire world, because that will transfer to your new season. You also should pick up all your altars of Lilith. That would be these altars. The stats and renown is now going to transfer, to my understanding, between every season. That's what they said, if I didn't misunderstand them. Total renown 2,000. This gives you an approximate of just under 600 renown. That is about a third of the renown you need to collect the Paragon points. Nothing else is going to be collected. Because of this, we're in a situation where you will have to collect about 1,400 renown on your new character every season. This is something I was very concerned about, because me as a no-life gamer, and a lot of us streamers are, I'm not going to have a problem making time for this. But grinding out that renown took quite some time. Now they're forcing your regular dad gamer or the casual gamers, which is essentially the vast majority of the target audience for this game, is now forced to farm 1,400 renown per area. I am not a big fan of this. So just to point it out, obviously these things are subject to change. But before moving off from this topic, because I know a lot of people are upset about this, I will say this. Strongholds gives you 100 renown value each. That's 300. Some of them have waypoints. Some of them have quest gated. When you're leveling, you might actually want to do some quests. When you're leveling, make sure you pick up the renown. If you put the strongholds up, you have about 1,100 renown to go. Dungeons still gives you 30 renown. Now, the way to solve the dungeon issue is that if you want to speed this and you're a dad gamer, swing by my Discord, swing by my stream channel, ask for other people who are doing renown. And what you can do is get a group of 4 people, and everyone will spread out and do one dungeon themselves each. But as long as you're in a party, you'll get the completion bonus for someone else finishing another dungeon in that area. This will help you speed up the renown collection. And I mean, in this case, we're sitting at the, for example, Fractured Peaks have 23 dungeons, and 23 multiplied by 30 would be 600 plus 90, so that's 690 renown plus this. That would be 990 renown. Suddenly, you're almost done with collecting all of your renown by just doing all of the dungeons, which is not that slow to do if you're playing in a party. So there are ways to speed it up, but this is per zone. I still don't like it, but there are ways to make it a bit smoother. So that's the points I want to put out there for you. Other things that they brought up was DC death protection. The way they say that is that the scroll of escape, or whatever it's called, that lets you use it to teleport to town instead of dying. They're having a way for that to be used if you lose connection. Obviously, this is potentially abusable to some degree, depending on how they implement it, but I think it's a step in the right direction either way. Another thing they brought up, which I really want to talk about a little bit, is something I made a video about rather recently, and that's why I'm on this character. So Adam Fletcher, he said that people should focus on item power rather than level requirement on gear. And I feel like for people who know what they're looking for, understand what he's saying, because an item that requires level 100 isn't necessarily better than an item that is requiring level 80. But I think that for people that are not too woven into this type of universe of gaming, or the casual gamers might not really understand that, and then consider that, oh, but my lower item level is better because it has higher item power. And then we come to the problem that a lot of people are having with their characters being really, really bad, and that is because they're looking strictly at item power. So I'm going to show you 2 examples of this. One where item power matters a lot, and one where it doesn't matter very much at all. It does have a huge impact, but you have to keep certain things in mind. So my current build is currently being tested as an optimization of Bone Spear. Bone Spear. On my weapon, I have 811. Not the best, but it's good. On weapons, item power matters a lot because it dictates the actual damage rolls. I still need to consider the modifiers. I had an 815 weapon before, but with modifiers that didn't do anything for my build. This one is a little lower, but it's significantly better because of the modifiers. But the damage on the weapon is very important because of the item power. Item power also comes in brackets. I'm not going to go in depth with it, but there's basically some thresholds that allows you to roll higher numerical values on your modifiers. So if we then take a look at, for example, my 764 ring. This one has modifiers that is good for my build except for the minion life. So there are 3 good modifiers in this, and I'm happy with this. But if I found a ring that would be of item power 700 or 650 that had 4 modifiers that would be beneficial for me, it is very likely that that ring would be significantly better than this ring, even though the item power is way lower. So now I'm going to take a look at what Adam was talking about. My gloves is requiring level 80. I have a level 100 character. I got these 20 levels ago. The item power is 669, but the modifiers on this item is really good. And I have yet to find a pair of glove that has 4 modifiers like this with higher numerical values to be better than what I'm currently wearing. Despite being level 100. I have a 669 that require level 80 for 20 levels ago. And I've still not found a better one. So you cannot look at item power exclusively. You have to understand which modifier scales your build and use those modifiers as a main priority when you're gearing up. And the only time you would disregard that to some degree would be if there's a significant boost of item power on your weapon. Say I have good mods on an item power 700, and then I find an item power 800 something weapon. It is very likely that the 800 would be better despite the modifiers. And obviously, you can try these things out, but I just want to clarify this because I feel like it could be somewhat confusing for the more casual players. Again, I'm only picking out the things that stood out the most to me. So they said a couple things that would be Season 2 fixes, not Season 1. Season 2 that would come in fall. Gem fix to sort inventory and stash pace in Season 2. Again, I'm going to revert and repeat myself when I say it's a big company. We might not see changes coming 2 minutes after we ask for them. But I feel like a lot of the stuffs in this game feels like, to me, with a multi-billion-dollar company like this, the amount of millions they made from this game just on launch, I feel like a lot of stuffs should have been fixed or play-tested, and it really feels to me that they never were play-tested before the game launched, and it just baffles me. But again, I don't know how the inner workings are looking like at Blizzard. That's just my 2 cents on it. But again, at least we're going to see gem fixes for inventory and stash bases, but they're coming in Season 2. Another thing that we have already brought up several times before the game even launched was defensive scaling. You see that this character has 5.8k armor, but if you go and look at my resistances, let's see, defenses, I don't really have that high resistances. And Kriperian made a really good video talking about how this works as well. And we have all mentioned how badly the formula was presented in the dev streams in the past before the launch of the game, of how armor would just be the main stat we'd be stacking. Resistance seems completely wasted on modifiers in your gear. Then we started playing the press release. This was reported and brought us feedback to them as well during the press release, as well as during the betas. And this was something that was brought up as feedback during the game launch as well. And now they're admitting and acknowledging the fact that resistance formula is just absolutely trash. Now, obviously, getting damage reduction from resistances is one thing, but because we only have 4 modifiers in gear, it might not be the best way to say, well, just make them more impactful. I think that it would be wise to do that as well, obviously, because of how bad it is. But connecting resistance modifiers to perhaps generic type of ailment duration or crowd control duration reduction from those elements would actually make it more attractive as well. I'm looking at you, cold enchanted mother. Perma-freezing me last map I did. I'm just saying, cold resistance, lowering the freeze duration, stuff like that would make it more attractive. I'm not sure how I feel about it still, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But this is expected, again, in Season 2. Again, that's the things that they did say that I think was brought up. And I want to reiterate a couple of things, the problems that I wanted to bring up going into this dev stream, and that was that I wanted to see them tackle and talk about mob density. They did a little bit. They said, to recap, they did say that we're talking about a baseline that they reach, so they can only go up now. We'll see where that goes. I wanted to see quality of life, such as gem tabs and stash tabs. Again, we've seen that, but it's going to come further down the road. I wanted to see nightmare dungeons, which they did tackle. I wanted to see them talk about necro bugs, which they talked a little bit about with the visual clarity, but everything else that's problematic with Necromancers and minions for that matter has not been brought up again at all. Hopefully we'll see that in an upcoming dev stream. Lack of information for minions and Necromancer generals, all same thing there. I wanted them to talk about the considerable CC chains, crowd control chains. There is no diminishing returns. You can literally be in a perfect scenario. You can be frozen, stunned, and feared back to back to back to back endlessly and infinitely till your character is dead. And that's something that just feels weird to me, that would be a possibility in an ARPG game which is essentially founded by Blizzard North and Star, like the genre-defining approach to this type of game. And having that be the general possibility in your gameplay feels very, very weird to me. Another thing I want to brought up that I wish they would tackle was loot filters. I just don't understand why loot filters is not a thing. It's been praised in every single game that is released within this genre, and still they don't want to bring it up. I don't know. I just wanted to do something about that. They did say that Diablo 3 has been out for 10 years and Diablo 4 has been out for 10 days. Yet it feels like they have not learned a lot from those 10 years of Diablo 3. It's as if they believe that Diablo 4 is such a vastly different game that it belongs in a completely different box, in a different world, in a different genre of games. But in reality, they're both ARPG games by its core, such as quality of life features, such as information, such as balance fixes. Like, all of those things that came from D3 took a long time before they were implemented. It's weird and odd to me that those 10 years of Diablo 3 could not be used as a learning textbook to use as information for things that should be or could be at least considered in Diablo 4. Just want to point that out because it was very weird to me that they're using that as an argument when in fact it seems to me that that just adds to the argument on the other side of the spectrum. And again, I know I said this a few times already, but I want to finish this video with saying that people expect Blizz to fix things giga-fast, and bigger companies mean slower fixes unless it's directly connected to being harmful to the profitability of the game. That's just the world we live in. I think people need to learn that and accept that. I hate it. Path of Exile used to be really fast on these things, and even Path of Exile have become slower and slower those things as the game has grown, and that is nothing bad. It's just the world we live in. So please do keep that in mind and be respectful when you leave a comment down below. Hit the like button, subscribe for more content. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Till then, stay safe. Keep rocking.